Hello, welcome to this tutorial in which I'm going to have a look at 3D coordinates, plotting points in 3D. What I've got in front of me is what you're used to, which is in 2 dimension, x and y axis, and I've plotted a point here. So I was going from the origin, we go in the x direction first, that's 2 units, and then 1 unit up. And you always write it as an ordered pair, x first and then y. And these are the coordinates, x is 2 and y is 1. So what happens in 3 dimension? Well, let's have a look. You've got 3 axes perpendicular to each other. That's the x-axis, positive direction that way, the y-axis, positive that way, z-axis going up, positive that way. So what happens if I select this point here? Well, we're going to go from the origin, that's what we do every time. I only go in the x direction 2 units. So x would be 2. I'm not going parallel to the y-axis, so y would be 0, nor am I going up. So z would be 0. So the coordinates would be 2, 0, 0. Remember x first. X is 2, y is 0, and z is 0. What happens when we get to this point here? Well, from the origin we're not going that way, nor are we going up. We're only going the y direction. And that's actually at 3, not at 4, as you can see. Okay? So, what are the coordinates? X is 0, y is 3, and z is 0. And there they are here. What about this point here? Well, we're not going in that direction, nor are we going that way, we're just going up. So it'll be 0 for x, 0 for y, and 1 for z. And that's what it looks like. 0, 0, 1. What I've tried to do is to try and make it look easier to see, I hope. And I've drawn some planes. That surface, this one is called a plane, that's a plane, and that's a plane. I've drawn some lines as well to help us in terms of movement. And I've plotted some points, you can see them around. And that's the origin here. And what are the coordinates of the origin? Well, it's 0, 0, 0, as you'd expect. So what about the coordinates of this point here? Well, this point is on the horizontal floor, on the horizontal surface. So if you imagine you're looking at the x and the y-axis, that's called the xy plane. Of course, it extends on either side. That's the xz plane, and that's the yz plane. So imagine your room, that's the floor, that's one of the walls, and that's another wall meeting on a line at the edge. So what we're going to try and do is to figure out the coordinates of this point here. Well, how do we get to it from the origin? Sorry. From the origin, would come across that far in the x direction, and then in the parallel to the y-axis. We're not going to go up. It's like a point on the floor of your room. Okay? So I'm going to try and move the origin, that point there, move it along here, and then bring it along here and see what the values are. It'll have an x value and a y value, but not a z value. So, let's see what we can do. You can see x, you can see it moving now. At the moment x is 0.4. It's moving along, x is increasing, y is not doing anything until I start to move in the y direction, parallel to the y-axis. So x is 2.2 at that point, and now we'll bring it towards the actual point itself, and there it is. Could you see the y increasing as I came along here on the status box here? Okay, and there it is. So x is 2.2 y is 2.1, and z is 0. Okay, what about this point here? Well, from the origin, we're not going along that direction. We're coming across that much, which is the y value, and then going up in the z direction, which is the z value. So x would be 0, y would be 2.1, and z would be 2.4. So that's 2.1 and that's 2.4. So what happens at this point here? Well, it's in the xz plane, so you'll only have an x value and a z value. It's on that wall there. So, coming from the origin, would come across that way. I don't know if you remember, it was 2.2, and the z direction 2.4. There'll be no y value, and there it is. So 2.2, not going that way, we're going up 2.4. So what happens when you get to a point like this one here? Let me just turn this round so you can see it a bit better. Yeah, it's like a point in the middle of your room. To get to that point, I'd have to move along here, parallel to, along the x-axis, and then parallel to the y-axis, and then go up parallel to the z-axis. I've tried to make it have the same values close to the other ones. So can you see the x value is whatever it was, 2.2 I think, and the height is the same as the z value before. And what about the y value? Well, yes, nearly there. There we go. So it'll have 3 coordinates, x, y and z. I'll just click on that now. So there it is, x is 2.2, y is 2.1 and z is 2.4. Okay, of course if that point was over here, it'll have negative coordinates, but at the moment we're only interested in the positive side of the x, y and z axis. But we'll be looking at some negative coordinates in the next 2 tutorials. That's what I wanted to show you. But to give you some idea what we're going to be looking at in the next couple of tutorials, here's a diagram in 3D, and it's a 6 by 6 by 6 cube, 666. We're going to be looking at working out the coordinates of a point such as this one here, and I'm confident you can do that one. It's in the x direction, it's on the x-axis, so it would be 6 that way, none that way, and none up. So it would be 6, 0, 0. Okay? What about this one here? It's 6 that way, x value 6, we're not going that way, 0 y value, and 6 z value. Well, that's just to give you a taste of what's to come. Well, I hope you found that useful. On to the next one. Take care.